So on today's episode of Let's Put Too Much Money and Effort Towards a 20-year-old Jeep, we're going to do the old cut and tuck on the rear quarter panels. A lot of people do it, but this one here we're going to do something a little bit different because of the rust. So there's not a lot of metal to cut and tuck, so we're going to have to cut it all out and build a new panel. So as you can see here, very much left going on here. These things accumulate a lot of moisture down through here, but you can see the rest of the rig though is pretty rust free other than these guys. So typically, let's walk over here. So I already kind of started cutting on this one. Now typically what you'd want to do is just come up through here and cut this up here, cut this up through here, and then you're going to cut this up through here and this through here. And what that'll usually do is it'll free up this inside panel and this outside panel, and at that point you can literally just fold the metal up into each other. You can fold the metal up into each other and get that nice flat, the cut and tuck. But obviously we can't really do that, so what I want to do is I'm going to come up through here and cut all this up, and might fold this up into here, and then from that point I'm going to make a panel that's going to rivet underneath here and fold up in there. So let's see how that turns out. So just for information purposes here, we kind of did this the same way we did on the other side. I cut the entire back part off, cut the entire front part off, and all I did was reuse the inside edge and folded the inside edge that sit right here and just folded it 90 up here. So that way our new panel will fit right up in here flat, and we can rivet it on the inside here too. So one way to do it that would be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, I would say, would be just drill some 1/8 inch holes down through here and through here, a couple 1/8 inch holes and 1/8 inch holes back in here. And what you can do, only drill into this, only drill into the existing body, put your patch panel up there, and then what you can do is tack through those holes, just tack weld right through those holes. That way it'll be like a nice, almost like a pinch seam weld. And then what you can do is once you get all those holes filled in with weld, you can sand it flat, and then at that point you can throw a skim coat of Bondo over it and it'd look really nice. It'd probably look factory, but I'm gonna do rivets just because I really don't feel like dragging that welder all the way out here. Here's our piece, and what we're gonna do here, which is what we did on the other side. Let's see if I can get this camera at a good angle here. There's like a little pinch weld right there, and we can fit this thing right up in that pinch weld. And so what we'll wind up doing here is get that thing all tucked up in there nice. And this right here, we're gonna have to try to pull out a little bit, but it'll work out just fine. Put that in the brake. We got it at a pretty close angle, I like to think, to fit underneath there. And then we just gotta put it back in the brake and get the other angle, do some more cuts on it, and we should be good to go. We're shortened up just a little bit here, so we're not having so much material up in there. Let's see, so we're that far in. Let's cut it right here. Nice and straight. So what I'll do here is I'll take the highest point of our Sharpie mark and use it as like kind of a straight edge. Yeah, I'll be good there. Whoopsie. Let's give that a shot. And take our snips, cut this little edge off again, cut it back even further. It is close enough for the girls I go out with. All right, so let's go over here to the finger brake and we'll put a bend in this. Well, let's do it like this here. Oh, does it have to be 90? Does it have to be 45? I really don't know. So we'll just bend it and see what we got here. Boom. All right, here's our finished piece. Let's see how we did. Let's see how we did here. Not that bad. All right, we got her. She's up in there, nice and flat. I think even our angles are pretty good. It doesn't look like we're gonna have as much of a gap on this side as we did on the other side. So that's a good thing. But let's get some holes drilled in it and some clecos in it and see where we're at. All right, this is what we got. I'm gonna do something a little different right here. I don't know, might cut that a little bit and straighten it out, we'll see. But she is all clecoed up in there. She's pretty darn flush. Now let's move forward here. So I got this corner a little bit better. I just cut a couple release slits in it and just kind of tried to hammer it flat. I mean, it don't look great, but it's a freaking 1998 Jeep Cherokee. Any idiot can shoot paint. So, the big thing with paint work is prep work. Clean the material that you're trying to paint thoroughly. Get all the grease off it. Like this is a piece of steel, so it's got that little bit of oil coating on it from when they ship them. So a lot of people complain about how difficult paintwork is. It's not. Painting is easy. It's when you start cutting steps, when it comes to all your prep work, that's what screws you. All right. Get this thing shot with some primer. So here's a finished product. Didn't come out too terrible. It's got rubberized undercoating on it, which I put it in the bake booth for like a half hour and it still feels tacky, but it's all right. Let's get this thing fit up in there and finished. So there's a couple different style rivets that you should know about, which would be, this one's an aluminum exploder style rivet. So when you go to pull on it, watch. See how it does that? And that's what your end product is. That's a really good rivet to use if you got a space that you can't get a backup washer in. And another style would just be like a regular style rivet. Watch this. See how it mushrooms up? There's not much of a flare to it. This would be a good style rivet to use when you can actually fit a backup washer behind it, so that way you have a nice solid connection. Now what I'm going to use, these are countersunk AVEX style rivet. So watch when we squeeze this down. Notice how it's got like little perforations in it to where it mushrooms up a little bit more. Because we can't get backup washers in behind this. So this one will mushroom up a bit better and get a better connection. I'm not a huge fan of using the exploder style, mainly because they're aluminum and they're overall just kind of weak. I know this panel it's not really load bearing, but I prefer using the AVEX style. Again too, like I had mentioned before, you can always weld it, but I just don't feel like doing all that today. That's it. All right, so here she is in her glory. Came out pretty well. I'm not a huge fan of these gaps on both these sides here, but I have to work with that. But it came out very, very well in my opinion. I like the way it looks. Nice and flat. It's flush down across the bottom. And I ended up countersinking these holes a little bit. So that way the rivets aren't too obvious. And then we'll wind up coming through here and taping this off and just painting that. And that right there is what you call the cut and tuck. Pretty darn clean. I am not upset about it. So now we've got better clearance for these 33s that we have on here. And when we go to an aftermarket bumper, you can get the ones with the sides on it and just kind of beef up that whole area. So hopefully you enjoyed some of this and you took away something from it. So thanks for watching.